boys and girls, Mrs. Aslan here. I decided to wear a lot of purple for you today because I'm going to read Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you how you can make your own purple book. Harold and the Purple Crayon. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight, and he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path and set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought there should be a forest, and he didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. He backed away, holding his hand with the purple crayon. And the crayon was moving up and down. Suddenly he realized what happened. He was over his head in an ocean. He came up thinking fast, and in no time was climbing aboard a tiny boat. He had to draw everything. He drew a sail, and the moon sailed along with him. And after he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics. That made him hungry, so he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie, but there were 9 kinds of pies that Harold liked. When Harold finished his picnic, there was a lot left over, so he drew a hungry moose because he didn't want the pie to go to waste. Harold left the hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish up the pie. And off he went, looking for a hill to climb so he could see where he was. He knew the higher up he went, the further he could see, so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought he could see the windows in his bedroom. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom windows from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. Oh no! And there wasn't the other side of the mountain, so he went falling into the air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon, and he made a balloon and grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon so he could stand in it. All this he's doing with his purple crayon. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see any windows. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows were his window. He tried to think where his window would be. So he made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. So you can draw anything you want with your purple crayon. He made lots of buildings and lots of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of them was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way that Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing that he was in his room and in bed. Then suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon, and he could see it from his window. So he drew the window, and he drew his bed. He got in it and drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped to the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. Now, with a purple crayon, you can make drawings too, like my class, Mrs. Osland's class, and the purple crayon. And they can draw whatever they wanted. Here's an example. This is a garden that the purple crayon drew. The raindrops were falling on the seeds and a flower was growing. So you can draw whatever you would like. And guess what else? It doesn't even have to be a purple crayon. My yellow bear likes a green crayon, so he can draw with the green crayon. You can draw with whatever crayon you want. A purple crayon, a green crayon like my bear, a yellow crayon like the color of my bear, or any color that you like. And draw something, and if you do lots of pages, you can put it together and make a book. Enjoy!